Prime Minister Modi is on a landmark visit to a faraway island nation that is located roughly 3,500 kilometers away from India. But the big question is, why is India according such high priority to a remote island nation? That is exactly the question we are here to answer today in this short video. Prime Minister Modi has begun a 3-day visit to the Indian Ocean island nation of Seychelles. Seychelles not only occupies a strategic location in the Indian Ocean, but it also shares a deep rooted cultural and historical connect with India. Through this visit, the Prime Minister intends to achieve three important objectives for India's foreign policy, which is to promote the Mahasagar vision and position India as a leader of the global south and the small island states, and as well as project India's influence across the Indo Pacific region. Now, the timing of the visit is also very critical. The Prime Minister has been invited as the guest of honor as Seychelles marks its National Day celebrations, and this is the 50th anniversary of the independence of Seychelles from British colonial rule. It also marks the 50th anniversary of our diplomatic relations. I'm sure you must know that such milestones and landmark events are very important for UPSC exams, both for prelims and mains. UPSC tends to prioritize such topics which are in the news. So 2026 marks the 50th anniversary of India Seychelles relationship and the 50th anniversary of Seychelles independence from British colonial rule. As part of the visit, PM Modi is being given one of the highest honors, which is to address the National Assembly. So, this is what makes the visit all the more important. But first, let's break down the geopolitics of Seychelles. Why this country is so important? It's a remote island nation made up of a collection of small islands off the coast of East Africa, near the Horn of Africa region, and located in the western part of the Indian Ocean region. When you look at the map, when you see where Seychelles is located, you can automatically understand its geopolitical significance. Because, see, geopolitics is all about the physical and the human geography of a country and how it can influence the international relations of that particular country. So, when you look at the physical location of Seychelles, its location off the coast of East Africa, its proximity to the Horn of Africa region, and its location in the western part of Indian Ocean is what makes it so strategically important. It overlooks the Mozambique Channel over here, which is a maritime choke point and a very critical sea lane of communication for global shipping. It lies in close proximity to the Gulf of Aden and the strategic Bab el Mandeb Strait, which is yet another choke point in the Red Sea trade corridor that links with the Suez Canal and the Mediterranean Sea. India has vital economic and security interests in this part of the world. From Somalia in East Africa, piracy remains a major threat, and even terrorism remains a major concern in this part of Western Indian Ocean. In Somalia, you have a terror group known as the Al Shabaab that has been aligned with the Al Qaeda, and even Islamic State has created a presence for itself in eastern part of Africa. And given the recent tensions near the Gulf of Aden, Bab el Mandeb, and towards West Asia, and the presence of the Houthis in Yemen, who have been disrupting the trade routes by attacking the vessels in the Red Sea corridor, the location of these small island nations becomes all the more critical. And also look at the broader Indian Ocean. You have the Chagos group of islands that today belongs to Mauritius, which was colonized by Britain. Until last year, Britain maintained its administration at the Chagos group, and the Diego Garcia Island, which is part of the Chagos Islands, has been leased to the US, where US operates one of the largest naval bases and military facilities, thus giving US a strong foothold in the Indian Ocean. So there are many such external powers exercising their military influence in this region. You have France with the French Reunion acting as a major military bloc in the region. United Kingdom, of course, because of its presence at Chagos. And of late, China, with its strategic projects under Belt and Road Initiative, has been exerting its diplomatic and military influence, be it the Hambantota and Colombo port in Sri Lanka, or China's port and runway projects at Fedu Finolu Island on Maldives, or China's investments all across East Africa, from Djibouti, where China has its foreign naval base, to countries like Somalia, Kenya, Mozambique, Tanzania. China has made strategic port investments all along the east coast of Africa. Now, this area that you see here has been a traditional backyard of India. India envisions the Indian Ocean as its strategic sphere of influence. India would like to be the predominant power in the Indian Ocean. And we also share historical, ancient trade linkages and cultural ties with this entire part of the world, from East Africa to West Asia. And that is what makes Seychelles so critical. Now, before we proceed with this topic and understand the history of our relationship and what outcomes to be expected from the Prime Minister's visit, before we discuss this, I have one important announcement for UPSC aspirants who are preparing for 2027 and beyond. If you are looking for a structured, guided program, then Unacademy is launching the Elevate batch starting from the 1st of July. This would give you access to all our live and recorded lectures by our top educators, along with the study material, the test series, and one on one mentorship. And if you avail within the offer period under SHIKSHA MAHOTSAV, you get the triple treat benefit, where you will not only get the lowest price at 16,999 for the subscription, you will also get double validity. That is, if you take a 6 month subscription, you get 6 month subscription free, and the same for 9, 12, and 18 months. You also get CSE Assure guarantee. That is, for some reason, if you don't clear the exam in your first attempt, then your next attempt is entirely on us. Of course, you will have to fulfill some conditions. If you have attended the number of required classes, taken up the required number of tests, and if you have been a regular, hardworking student, and despite that you couldn't clear the exam, then your next attempt will be on us. So, those of you who are interested, this is the best time to enroll, as this prize is not going to come back anytime soon. So, the offer has been extended based on student demand. And if you're interested, please check out the link provided in the description below. On the subscription page, you might see a different price, but to avail this offer, you have to enter the code IAS English. Now, coming back to our discussion, let's look at the history and the cultural ties that we enjoy, and then we'll talk about the economic and strategic relationship. Now, when you look at Seychelles, we have a 250-year plus relationship with these remote islands. Back in 1770, the first batch of Indians, 5 Indian workers, especially from the Tamil Nadu Puducherry region, they migrated here under colonial rule to work in the plantations. See, Seychelles was first colonized by the French. Later, the British took over, and 5 Indian workers were the first to arrive, along with a set of African slaves under French colonial rule. And following up with British colonial era, the Indian traders, workers, merchants, they started moving towards this region. Because see, from Oman to Tanzania, the entire belt of West Asia, East Africa, has always maintained that economic, trade, and cultural links with west coast of India and southern part of India. And that is exactly the connection you see today. Post independence, India has built upon this historical relationship. Thousands of Indians have made Seychelles their home, and you have thousands of people of Indian origin who have Seychelles citizenship. We have thousands of Indian workers, Indian citizens working in Seychelles as well. Believe it or not, roughly 5% of the country's population is made up of Indian PIOs, or persons of Indian origin. It's a very small nation with a population of hardly 1.2 lakh, out of which 6,000 are persons of Indian origin. You have 9,000 Indian workers along with this, making it a very strong Indian community. Given the small size of the population, the Indian community, the Indian diaspora accounts for more than 10% of the population. So it's mainly the Gujarati traders, the Tamil merchants, and workers from the west coast and the southern part of India who have settled in Seychelles, forming that close link. In fact, what's interesting is that during British colonial rule, Seychelles was briefly administered from Bombay Presidency. Even in recent times, Seychelles depends heavily on the states in west coast of India, like Kerala, for example, be it for basic supplies from fuel to food, medicines. There's a lot of dependency on India because Such small countries, they have very large exclusive economic zone. They can't patrol and protect these waters on their own, and they need essential support from financing to cheaper loans and as well as supply of essential items. But for India, this relationship is mainly centered on maritime security and defense. This is the center stone or the cornerstone of our relationship. The main concern here is to counter piracy that emanates from the Somalian coast. Piracy in this part of the region, from the Somalian coast towards Horn of Africa and Gulf of Aden, has been a serious concern and threat for global shipping, which directly affects India's trade interests. The presence of terror networks operating here, from Al Shabaab to ISIS modules and the Houthi militia in Yemen, poses a serious challenge for the stability of the sea lanes of communication. And you also have large scale organized crime, especially drug trafficking, along with arms trafficking that's prevalent in the western part of Indian Ocean. And these developments pose a big threat to India's national security. India's maritime security and the security of island territories like Lakshadweep could be threatened by these adverse developments. So, focusing on these security challenges is our number one focus. And that is the reason why India maintains a constant military presence over here since many decades. In fact, in 1976, an Indian warship visited Seychelles during its Independence Day celebrations. In 1981, Prime Minister Indira Gandhi became the first Indian PM to travel to the country. And now PM Modi is the second leader, the second Indian PM to travel. And PM Modi is the first Indian Prime Minister to have visited Seychelles twice. Once in 2015, which was a critical visit. We'll discuss that in a short while. And now the current ongoing visit. So, as a key defense partner, India trains the defense forces of Seychelles. We supply arms, weapons, military hardware. We have a constant deployment of Indian warships and patrol and surveillance aircrafts to patrol these waters and guard the exclusive economic zone of Seychelles. So, India has taken up this role to protect small island nations in the Indian Ocean. We provide similar assistance to Maldives and Mauritius as well. India has donated military equipment such as fast interceptor boats and Dornier maritime surveillance aircraft to help the Seychelles Defense Forces to take up patrolling and reconnaissance of these waters. And more importantly, India has even set up a part of its coastal surveillance radar network in Seychelles. After the Mumbai attacks, India focused seriously on coastal security. And under phase one of coastal surveillance radar project, we set up a series of coastal radars covering the entire coastline of India from Gujarat to West Bengal, and as well as covering the island territories of Lakshadweep and Andaman Nicobar. This was a flagship project of the Manmohan Singh government. Then phase two was launched, where India has extended these radars to friendly countries in Indian Ocean, from Mauritius to Seychelles to even Sri Lanka and others are also hosting these radars. And the radar data is integrated into the command control center located on the outskirts of Delhi in Gurugram, known as the IFC IOR, the Information Fusion Center for Indian Ocean region. So this intelligence facility helps us track the movement of ships and vessels all across the Indian Ocean. And it has become one of the key security establishments and infrastructure of India, where many foreign navies are also interested. They've deployed their liaison officers from US Navy to Japan to Russia to UK, all the key partners of India. They deploy their liaison officers at IFC IOR to share information on white shipping and as well as naval intelligence. Then we also have a military exercise called Lamitier, started in 2001. It's a biennial exercise held once in 2 years. Initially, it was just an army exercise between the two armies. But this year, in March 2026, it was upgraded for the first time into a tri service exercise involving participation from Indian Army, the Navy, and the Air Force as well. Plus, this region is affected regularly by disasters, especially cyclones. So, India provides disaster management assistance through HADR operations across the east coast of Africa. And Seychelles is like a gateway for our African engagement and African diplomacy, not only by providing disaster relief operations, but also by engaging with African countries and the groupings that are mainly centered across this region. India has even provided concessional loans, a line of credit, so that Seychelles can buy the required defense equipment and other weapon systems from India. Now, in 2015, Prime Minister Modi carried out a high profile visit to Mauritius and Seychelles, which was the first time that PM Modi was visiting these island nations. That is when India launched the SAGAR doctrine, security and growth for all in the region, which has now been upgraded to the MAHASAGAR doctrine. Last year, when PM Modi visited Mauritius, a decade later, it was upgraded to MAHASAGAR, mutual and holistic advancement of security and growth across regions, covering the entire Indo-Pacific. While Sagar doctrine was limited to Indian Ocean region, Mahasagar extends across the Indo-Pacific region. So during this critical visit, PM Modi inaugurated the coastal radars both in Mauritius and Seychelles, which were integrated with our IFC IOR network. And along with that, after launching the Sagar doctrine, key agreements were signed both with Mauritius and Seychelles. Mauritius leased a strategic island called Agalega Islands to India. In the same visit, Seychelles also leased a strategic island called Assumption Island to India. India was expected to build transport connectivity infrastructure, essentially a airport with a runway facility and a port facility. So though they were projected as commercial projects to improve economic linkages and connectivity for the local people, experts believe that these projects could potentially turn out to be Indian military bases in the western part of Indian Ocean. Last year, India has completed the project at Agalega Islands by working with Mauritius. We have built a key runway and a port facility where Indian aircraft, defense aircraft, and warships have been regularly spotted. So the project with Mauritius at Agalega Islands has been a big success. But however, the Assumption Island project with Seychelles did not really take off. It faced a lot of local opposition, and it even led to a political divide in Seychelles. And Indian intelligence also believes that probably there was a certain amount of Chinese involvement in creating anti-India sentiments against the project at Assumption Island. So that is one of the reasons why the current visit of the Prime Minister becomes all the more important. And also, please understand, Seychelles is part of several important Indian Ocean groupings along with India. It's a member of the Indian Ocean Rim Association, which is an India led grouping that brings the littorals of Indian Ocean together. It also participates in the Indian Ocean Naval Symposium, which is again an initiative of the Indian Navy. The IONS, which initially was just a naval conference, has now been elevated into a naval exercise involving multiple nations of the Indian Ocean. Then the Colombo Security Conclave, which brings the national security advisors of the Indian Ocean countries together, along with their security agencies and armed forces. It also includes Sri Lanka, Maldives, Mauritius, and Seychelles also has joined as a member, along with Bangladesh. So that makes the group very critical to deal with security issues of the Indian Ocean, and Seychelles is a part of it. Then we have Indian Ocean Commission, a grouping of Western Indian Ocean island countries. Countries like Mauritius, Comoros, Madagascar, then the French territory of La Réunion. They're all part of this group. They are the members. India is not a member, but we are an observer state. In 2020, India was admitted to Indian Ocean Commission as one of the observer states. So this brings us to India's role in the development of this small island nation. Since 1976, India has been providing financing arrangements in the form of grants, in the form of concessional line of credit to help in the development of Seychelles. For example, its National Assembly building it has been built with Indian funds. Its entire judicial building complex has also been constructed with Indian funds. Its healthcare system, its IT systems, banking infrastructure has all been funded by India. India supplies all essential items from vehicles to computers. India plays a role in education as well. And we even take up capability and capacity building training programs to improve the skills and offer scholarships under the ITEC program of Ministry of External Affairs. So earlier this year, the leader of Seychelles visited India in February, March 2026. During this visit, India announced a special economic package of $175 million to aid in the development of Seychelles. Plus, the patients of Seychelles, they look at India as a medical tourism destination. So there is a tie-up between Indian hospitals, especially in southern India, from cities like Chennai, that offer medical services for patients in Seychelles. Now, during this visit, there are four major priority areas, and that is what you need to remember. One, of course, is maritime security and defense. The main focus here is to project Indian military influence, deal with the common threats from piracy to terrorism to organized crime, and more importantly, counter any external presence from China to other external powers and establish India's predominant influence in the Indian Ocean. Second will be the blue economy model, which is a sustainable model of developing an ocean economy. Blue economy model doesn't believe in over exploitation of oceanic and marine resources. It provides for sustainable, inclusive, and equitable exploitation and channels the benefits of that towards developing the coastal communities. So, this initiative is very critical in today's world driven by climate change, where small island nations of the global south they face the risk of submergence due to rising sea levels. So, India assists many countries in developing and implementing the blue economy model. Next, as we discussed, India is a key partner in development assistance and capacity building, through which India offers training and skill development programs. India trains their police officers, their bureaucrats and diplomats, their banking officials, their IT engineers. India takes up a lot of construction work. We provide concessional loans and grants to fund many of these projects. And that is how India retains its unique influence. And of course, the people to people relations and the cultural ties dating back to colonial times. That is what binds us together, keeps us together. I think this explains why this visit is so crucial. You can expect some key agreements and hopefully some progress on the Assumption Island project. So, long story short, this visit is mainly based on two primary objectives of India. One, to establish our economic, diplomatic, and military influence and project the Mahasagar vision to lead the global south and ensure that we engage with all the nations of the Indo-Pacific. And two, to counter China and external military presence, deal with security threats, and protect India's national interests. So, on this note, I bring this discussion to an end. If you like the session, do press the like button and do comment below what you think about the visit. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.